The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users, on demand on iTunes and on YouTube and on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com. You're more than welcome to comment on my comments, whether you agree with the author or not. It matters not. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, well, we're syndicated coast to coast across the United States of America into 12 million additional households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten, and today I am pleased to introduce as my guest Mark Benjamin. He is an award-winning investigative reporter. He writes for Salon.com. He covered General Petraeus's and Ambassador Crocker's testimony yesterday and the day before two U.S. Senate committees. Since 2001, Mark Benjamin has focused on national security issues with an emphasis on the plight of returning veterans and detainee abuse. He has been hailed for exposing problems caring for veterans at Walter Reed Army Hospital starting in early 2005. He has also obtained for Salon the Army's entire Abu Ghraib investigative files. Benjamin has been a consultant for CBS's 60 Minutes, a freelance on-air reporter for CNN, and has appeared on all of the major television networks. His investigative reporting techniques have been chronicled in the Nieman Reports for the Nieman Foundation for Journalism at Harvard University. He is the winner of a Raymond Clapper Memorial Award for the best reporting from Washington, a Fourth Estate Award from the American Legion, a Mental Health Media Award from the National Mental Health Association, an Outstanding Media Coverage Award from the National Gulf War Resource Center, a GLAAD Media Award for Outstanding Digital Journalism, and was a finalist for the Online News Association's Online Journalism Awards. He previously worked at UPI. Mark Benjamin, welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
It's my pleasure. So you were there as General Petraeus and Ambassador Crocker addressed Congress yesterday and the day before. He gave, Petraeus that is, a pretty upbeat assessment of the war yesterday. I don't know whether everybody shares in that, because I've seen a lot of touting early on the past year, I guess as of January of last year, of the effects of the surge on the insurgency in Iraq, its positive effects. But lately, I see the term surge relating not to the coalition troops' ability to affect the insurgency, but the insurgency putting on a surge against the coalition troops. How on the money do you think Petraeus and Crocker were yesterday and the day before?
I think they were on the money with respect to the fact their main claim, which is that the surge has resulted in a reduction of violence. Now, you got to take that to a certain extent with a grain of salt. I mean, when they release these figures on a reduction of violence, they usually are comparing them. They said, certain statistics like sectarian killings and security incidents are reduced, but they're just back to the levels they were in 2005 and early 2006. So when you talk to experts, we're still in what most experts would define as a civil war. But I think what's really more important and is becoming very painfully clear is that the surge was announced 15 months ago, and the purpose of the surge was not just to reduce violence, but to reduce violence so that national reconciliation would occur. Everybody seems to agree that a political solution is the solution in Iraq. It's just not happening. So the United States is faced, and there are some minor reconciliation initiatives in the Iraqi government, but they're just not coming together, and democracy is not flowering the way the surge was intended. So it has definitely made some progress. I think they're telling the truth about that. But how closer does it get us to the end point? How does this thing end? Is the $64,000 question? There just is not an answer.
But Ambassador Crocker said yesterday that they've kept the war, the insurgency, to a minimal level, and that there's real national political reconciliation that's going on.
Yeah, he did say that, and there have been. But when you ask them what is the national political reconciliation, they will name three things. Parliament recently, in the last few months, passed 3 laws. They allow members of Saddam Hussein's Ba'ath Party back into the government, de-Baathification reform. They set up local and regional elections for this October, and they set up a process for granting amnesty for 25,000 people that are in custody either by the Iraqis or U.S. forces. The problem is that none of those laws have been enacted. First of all, it's only 3 of 18 benchmarks, that the Iraqis are supposed to be meeting. The second is that none of them have been implemented. It's not clear any of them will be implemented. Crocker found himself in a position, when he was up on the Hill of claiming, one of the successes that he claimed was that they redesigned the Iraqi flag, and it's flying all over the country now. So, if that gives you an idea of what they're searching for in terms of claiming successes, I think most independent experts would say that good things have happened on the ground. The Sunnis are not killing us as much in the West. Sadr has a ceasefire in Baghdad, so on and so forth, or did, and still does on paper. But in terms of the government, getting together and creating a national, any kind of national reconciliation, it's not happening.
Well, there are a lot of Ron Paul lawn signs all over Pennsylvania, but nobody expects him to win the GOP nomination for President of the United States. So, the fact that there are a lot of flags flying is not necessarily indicative of anything. By the way, in our text in our virtual auditorium on Paltalk, somebody said they liked what Ron Paul had to say when he questioned General Petraeus. I'm really interested in your assessment not only of the jobs that Petraeus and Crocker did yesterday, but obviously all the candidates for President of the United States were in attendance as well, questioning both gentlemen, and they were obviously positioning themselves for the constituency out there, for the voting public. How do you think the three, and you could throw, if you would like, the performance of Ron Paul in, if you wish, how do you think that Clinton and Obama and McCain fared yesterday in their questioning of the 2 witnesses?
I think they fared, all of them, I thought, performed perfectly fine. I thought, just in the way they came across, Hillary Clinton, frankly, looked very tired. She had a long weekend. She, one of her top advisors had to resign, Mark Penn, and so on and so forth. The thing that is becoming sort of painfully clear, though, I think, in some of the questioning, is that, these candidates themselves are having trouble describing when they are president, and I think this was apparent yesterday as well, or the day before as well, exactly what end state they want that is attainable. So in other words, McCain is saying, and this is really starting to show up as sort of the elephant in the room, McCain is saying, I will create a shining democracy in the Middle East